Licorice pizza, a term for vinyl 12-inch long playing or LP record, named because it is black and about the same size as a pizza.
And welcome to another edition of Licorice Pizza. That's right, the 18th, I believe, edition of it. I remember that. I can't believe it. All right. So, well, first of all, like, comment, and subscribe, okay? And don't forget about the great t-shirts, Licorice Pizza t-shirts, all different sizes, 1X up to 6X, whatever. You'll see them here on the screen. Beautiful t-shirts, okay? So do yourself a favor and get one. Yeah. All right. We are going to talk about the band today. We're going to talk about a band later, in a later broadcast. You could say this is a band. Jimi Hendrix Experience. Yeah, they were an experience. Jimi Hendrix. What can you say? First of all, before we get to the first album he ever did, or the first one that's notable that brought him to the top. A little history. Hendrix had been around. He was in the Air Force for a while. Got out of the Air Force, paratrooper, I believe he was, and played backup lead guitar for Little Richard for a while, and was fired from the band. Why? Because Little Richard says, "You're stealing my show, Jimmy." Absolutely killing it up there. He was a great performer, had his own style, and he backed up Little Richard and other groups as well. Musically, went around the, Seattle area. And then around 1966, he traveled to London, England. England was a swinging place back in the 60s. And he was gaining a reputation. It did not take long for Jimi Hendrix to start getting noticed. When you've got let me see, in the audience, the Beatles, Eric Clapton, members of the group Yes, all in the audience, and their eyes are like wide open. I said, "Oh my God, listen to this guy." It didn't take long for Jimmy to make it. His live performances were epic, absolutely epic. On stage, he just blew everybody away. And then after that, of course, what comes after that? A record contract. That's right. On Reprise Records, started by Frank Sinatra, his record label. That's right. And his first album, Are You Experienced? And we won't get into that part there, but you got to remember, this is late 66. He started recording that album and into 1967. And just to mention a few songs, I mean, this album broke new ground in music. Oh, no, I get it. Pet Sounds with the Beach Boys, awesome. Sgt. Pepper by the Beatles, awesome. That broke ground. This album also broke ground. That was 1967, just amazing guitar work. Nobody sounded like Jimi Hendrix. Nobody. And members of the band, Noel Redding on bass, Mitch Mitchell played drums, three-piece group, and Jimmy, of course, with the amazing guitar playing on that album. Such classic songs off this one album. Purple Haze, the other one, Red House, an old blues tune. Hendrix just nails this song. Lover Confusion, great tune. Fire, the song Fire, Third Stone from the Sun, which some bands cover. I know Joe Bonamassa, great guitar player, he covers that song, or used to, by Jimi Hendrix. Are You Experienced, title track from that album. And Foxy Lady. Who hasn't heard Foxy Lady? Coming to get you. Yeah. Jimmy had a way of, and we're talking about like 67 here. And that album comes out, then the Monterey Pop Festival. Around the same time, that whole time period, Monterey was absolutely crucial to his career. Also Janis Joplin's, for that matter. And Hendrix, by that time, is gaining such a reputation. Nobody wanted to go after Hendrix. When he hit the stage, he said, "What? No, we want to go on before and get out of there and let Jimmy do his thing." And that's what he did. Monterey Pop Festival. That's when he's on his knees with the lighter fluid. And I wouldn't suggest this, anybody, kids out there, don't light your guitar on fire. So he'd be on his knees and he's lighting it on fire, and he's gyrating to the amplifier with his guitar back and forth. And and his guitar playing, he did Wild Thing, of course. Just amazing performance. He was the whole package, Jimi Hendrix. And that first album set the precedent, of course, for the rest. And what else about Jimmy? He was always on the road. Always seems like he was either recording music or on the road every day of the week. The man really was tired a lot because of his endless touring. And then the next album comes out, Axis Bold as Love, and again, classics off this album. So, Castles Made of Sand, One Rainy Wish, Spanish Castle Magic, another great song. You Got Me Floating, or Floating, I think they said in the song. Also, If Six Was Nine, interesting tune, different tempos throughout that little talking bit he does in the background there. Kind of a different song. What else? Little Wing. What can you say about Little Wing? Stevie Ray Vaughan did a version of that, and other artists have covered that. Eric Clapton covered Little Wing as well. So Hendrix just keeps rolling, And then a lot of people consider this next. It's a double album, his best album, Electric Ladyland, double album. Talk about songs off this one. Oh my goodness. Voodoo Child, Stevie Ray Vaughan covered that song. Clapton ever do that? I'm not sure. I don't think he did. And of course, the song Bob Dylan wrote. You know which one it is. Maybe you don't. It's Dylan wrote the tune, but I like Bob Dylan's version of it. Is all along the Watchtower. Hendrix just, oh my goodness, what can I say? He took it to another whole level. That recording for 1968, which this double album came out, is Dave Mason did it. Yeah, I've heard his version. U2 does a version of it. I mean, they're good versions, but to me, Hendrix's version of that song, still my favorite version of that song, All Along the Watchtower. And other songs off that, Burning of the Midnight Lamp, Crosstown Traffic. That was a single released by Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix didn't really have like #1 singles. A lot of his stuff are very recognizable songs, but it's all about the album with the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And after that, now some changes come with the Jimi Hendrix Experience. First of all, he wanted to change course a little bit, or a lot actually. Noel Redding was out of the band. Mitch Mitchell was out of the band. In the next album, of course, 1970s, a band of Gypsies, Jimmy's new group. Buddy Miles on drums, a great drummer, the late great Buddy Miles, and Billy Cox plays bass. And Billy Cox from the band of Gypsies was with Jimi Hendrix, I believe, in the Air Force, and they did a lot of jamming together. But this band, I felt a little bit more polished sound than the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Buddy Miles, as far as drumming goes, a little more basic, and just kept it going. And Billy Cox on the bass, great bass player, just kept it, and so Jimmy could do his thing. Band of Gypsies, great group. Didn't last long, however. They recorded the Band of Gypsies album in New York at the Fillmore East. I think it was New Year's Eve of, would have been January 1st, would have been 1970. Great album, and it went big. One of the great live albums of all time. Machine Gun is off that particular album. Buddy Miles, Them Changes, another great song that Buddy Miles wrote for that album. Message of Love, Power of Love, Changes, that, like I mentioned, that song, and Who Knows. 6 songs, I believe, was off that particular live album. And then, the band of Gypsies, short-lived. The band wasn't around too long at all. And I consider this just an amazing album. His last really studio album that he meant to release before he passed away, September of 1970. Jimi Hendrix passed away. I remember hearing it on NBC TV. I don't know who the anchor was during that broadcast, and I was like, just could not believe, Jimi Hendrix. That can't be, but yeah, it happened, and he passed away, and he had just finished recording that album, "A Cry of Love," "The Cry of Love," and just a great album by Jimi Hendrix. Freedom's on that one. And that was the album. Okay, he's, recorded it. Yeah, he was going to release that. Unfortunately, he passed away before they released it. They released it in 71. I think early 1971. Freedom is off that one. That album, Easy Rider. Angel, what a great ballad. And this particular album is very important in many aspects, but one big one, he wanted to change course. Like, he was pretty heavy, with the first 3-4 albums. You get to this one, more refined, smoother album. He wanted to record with a string orchestra. Yeah, Jimi Hendrix. And he never got to see that realization of doing that. But this album, you can tell it is polished, just a more polished album, and great recording. Electric Ladyland Studios is a studio he started. And it's still there in New York City today. And that was his dream, to own his own studio. I'll come out with the albums that I want to come out with. I'll play with who I want to play with. I will add strings to it. And he had that vision. He wanted that more than anything, Jimi Hendrix, is to have his own studio, not tour as much. He was just constantly touring. And by 1970, some of his performances, they really weren't good. He was exhausted. And I think he did walk off the stage in London at a concert in England somewhere, where he just said, and he just walked off. He was totally exhausted. And, the human body and mind can only take so much. And he wanted to not tour as much and not do so many concerts and concentrate doing things in the studio like the Beatles were doing. Because, of course, they quit touring in 66. So they had 3 years of recording just in the studio. But he never saw that dream. And I always think, what would he have come out with if he hadn't have passed away? Oh my goodness. I just think about it. It's like, my God, we'll never hear that great music. I know he wanted to get together with Paul McCartney. He wrote a letter to Paul. Paul still has it, saying, "I'd like to get together with you and we can co-write a song." And Paul was all for it. He said, "That'd be great." Never got to realize that. So that would have been interesting. McCartney music with Hendrix, put them together, I think could have come out with some great stuff. Would they have written one song, 2, 3? Who knows? Maybe a whole album collaboration. That would have been great. So, and we can't forget, okay, I'm going to mention as a side note, the great Woodstock show that Jimi Hendrix did. I think he was the biggest. He was paid more than any other artist at Woodstock. Jimi Hendrix was. Any other artist, and he was the last one on. Unfortunately, people are exhausted. It's kind of looks like a cloudy, a little bit of rain maybe, and 3/4 of that crowd was done. So they all moved up near the stage to hear Jimi Hendrix. It was just epic. Star Spangled Banner with Jimi Hendrix. What can you say? It became an iconic song, but just an amazing show Hendrix put on at Woodstock. And let me see, Billy Cox was playing bass and Mitch Mitchell back on drums during the Woodstock. Noel Redding, they had a parting of the ways, Jimi Hendrix and his bass player. So they never got back together, obviously. Jimi Hendrix passed away September 17th, 1970. So, but we'll stop there. If I had to mention, say one album, if you're not real familiar with Jimi Hendrix, to listen to, Oh boy, I would just go right back to where it all started, like in '67. Are You Experienced? And listen to the whole album and just crank it up. You have to play his stuff kind of loud. All right, now we get to the my favorite slice, even though it's a song, my favorite slice by Hendrix. Favorite song would be, and he didn't write it, I know, All Along the Watchtower. Just never get sick of hearing that's a great, great song. And underrated slice. Oh boy. I know people are going to say, "Are you kidding me?" I know Crosstown Traffic. You know, people say, "I don't like that." I love that song. What song can you have? Can you have a rock song and have a kazoo in it? You know those kazoos they play. Well, Hendrix does. There's a solo with the kazoo instead of the lead guitar. Who could pull that off? But Jimi Hendrix. But that's my take on it. That's my underrated slice. People don't talk about the song. Probably, I don't know. Maybe they don't like it. I don't know. But my favorite slice is All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix, and Purple Haze would be in there too. One of my faves. Hey Joe, off the first album by Jimi Hendrix. Such classic songs. And he's around for like 3 years, folks, and that's it. So that is another wrap of Licorice Pizza. That's right. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And those t-shirts come in different colors, okay, different sizes. So check that out as well. Until next time, peace out.